Welcome to Without Regret, the podcast. This podcast is for people who are looking for inspiration to overcome obstacles in life and want to see that it is possible to live your best life and become successful, whatever that means to you, regardless of your circumstances. Hear from me and my guests as we share our stories of perseverance. My name is Tamara, and I'm the host of Without Regret, the podcast. On a fateful Halloween night in 1985, the life of Susan Snow was forever changed. Her father, LAPD Detective Thomas C. Williams, was tragically ambushed and killed. This devastating event set Susan and her family on a path they could never have imagined. But as you're about to discover, Susan's story is not just one of loss and grief. It's a story of incredible strength, resilience, and the power of the human spirit to heal. Susan's journey, filled with both heartache and hope, provides practical guidance and inspiration to anyone who has been touched by violence and loss. Susan didn't just survive this trauma, she reclaimed her life. She learned to navigate the challenging waters of PTSD, find a way to manage the unrelenting pain that can follow such a profound loss. But her story goes beyond that. It's a story of vulnerability embraced with courage, of experiencing loss without succumbing to victimhood, and of finding love through the incredible power of forgiveness. So get ready to be inspired and moved as we dive into Susan's extraordinary journey. Her resilience is a testament to the human capacity for healing and transformation. I know you'll find her story as powerful and uplifting as I have. Without further ado, let's hear from Susan Snow and embark on this incredible journey of hope and healing. All right. Hello, Susan Snow. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing wonderful. Thank you so much for being a guest on my podcast. I really appreciate it. And thank you for being flexible.
Yeah, no problem. I understand.
Yeah. So I wanted you to kind of tell us your story about your father and, the trauma there and what that did to you as a 17-year-old.
Okay. Well, I am the daughter of a Los Angeles police detective who was ambushed and murdered while picking up my then 6-year-old brother from school. It happened on Halloween night of 1985, Southern California. And I was 17. My mom and I were both called to the school and witnessed his body and the aftermath. So I have been living with PTSD all these years. And in the beginning, being 17, and back then in the 80s, there was no talk about mental wellness or mental health. There was no talk about PTSD. There was no resources really for teenagers experiencing severe trauma. And also, I was also dealing with a parent, my mom, that, everybody deals with trauma differently. And she immediately that night after everything happened, she, instead of keeping me together with my family unit, with my brother, with her, she sent me to a neighbor's house. So I really had to navigate all of the feelings and all of the anxiety and all of the shock on my own.
Wow.
And that kind of started a mindset, because even like it was a huge story back then, huge. And even the media forgot that he had a teenage daughter for at least a couple of days. So from the get-go, I kind of felt unimportant, but I didn't let it bother me because I was in fight or flight. I had no idea how I was going to get to the next day at that point. The trauma was severe, and my life completely changed from having a normal teenage life to something I wouldn't wish on anyone, because initially they did not catch the people involved. And so, and unbeknownst to us, we were in danger as well. So we had police surveillance around our house 24/7. And when I mean surveillance, I mean like 20 police officers in the front yard, the backyard, helicopters, media camped out outside. I mean, it was
Oh my God. So he was targeted.
nuts. Absolutely. He had, he was a detective. So he was on a case that he was testifying that day. And the perpetrator was out on bail during his trial. And so it gave him an opportunity to go to the school and do what he did. My dad, his last heroic thing that he did here on earth was to save my brother's life. So when he knew what was happening, he told my brother to duck down in the truck.
Oh, wow. Does your brother remember it?
Oh, yeah, vividly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, initially, like I said, everybody goes through things differently, but he was so young, and a lot of the emphasis, and so be it, was on him and was on my mom and was on my dad. And so even I didn't know how to be a sister to my brother at the time. I really struggled with that.
Right.
And then I felt guilty. So I lived with many years of shame and guilt that I wasn't the sister that I should have been. But honestly, being a kid myself, I had no idea how to navigate all of this.
Right. And you were just kind of left on your own, like you said.
Yeah. And
So
so
go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to ask if that you said your life completely changed. Did it change the trajectory initially of your life? And did you start acting out or anything, or?
No, so for me, like I said, I was just in fight or flight, and sometimes freeze, because I just didn't have any adults around me that could help me navigate it. And I watched my mother take a road that I certainly could have done, but she chose to drink. So that was something else that alienated me, or made me feel alienated, I should say. And I talk about it in the book I wrote. But, and then my brother, obviously, he's had stacked trauma his whole life, and he's doing fantastic now. Like, I'm really proud of him, but he is in his journey right now and working through all of the different trauma in his life. And I call him my Hercules, because he's a big guy. He's a very big guy. But on top of that, like, the amount of things that he's actually been able to endure all these years has been mind-boggling. So, part of me writing my book was for him. And that was my way of trying to be the better sister. And through my healing, I could help him as well.
When did you realize that you were suffering from this, that it was negatively impacting your life? Was that as an adult? I mean, not was only a year later, you were technically an adult, but did you seek out counseling or anything like that?
Well, I tell the story all the time and it kind of boggles everyone's mind. So the first month after my dad was killed, LAPD decided that we needed to go into therapy.
Okay.
So they arranged for each one of us to go through a therapy. And I had no idea what therapy was. I mean, I didn't know what to say at the time. I can tell you what I was going through. And that was like walking through life in a fog. But also I didn't know what it was called then, but I had suicidal ideation, severe depression, anxiety, all of the things that PTSD brings on. But I didn't even know I had that either. So the therapy that I went into, the gentleman that I met with, he never, our therapy sessions were always very simple. You know, they were just very wrapped around school, my relationship with my mother, my brother, and my boyfriend. He really never dove. And people go, what? Yeah. He never asked me point blank. He never asked me how that night affected me. Ever.
Wow.
So,
and how long did you talk to him? How long did that last?
For a year.
Wow.
And after a year of still feeling all of those things, but not being able to verbalize it because I didn't know that that's something I should have been doing.
Right.
So I went to my last session. He said, "You're a well-rounded young lady and you're very strong. And I don't need to see you anymore. You're going to be fine for the rest of your life." And I was just flabbergasted because I was like, I still feel all of these things. And so in my mind, I just told myself that I was nuts. Like I cracked, I'm crazy. This is something I'm gonna have to deal with for the rest of my life. And there's no one that's going to be able to help me.
Yeah.
So that was my mindset for the longest time, you know, and I dealt with all of those feelings for the longest time. And when it really pivoted for me was now I'm much older. I have 2 children. I'm married. We moved to Colorado. And 2 years after moving here, Columbine happened. And I was working as a hairdresser at the time. No one here knew my story at the time. I didn't want anyone to know who I was. And so I kept it kind of quiet. But when Columbine happened, I had a visceral reaction to it when I was watching on our little TV in the back room while my client was processing. I watched the TV like everyone else, but instead of just watching it and focusing on it, I was in full panic mode. I had flashbacks of the night my dad was killed because these kids were my age. It was at a school. I saw the police. I saw the EMTs and all the things that I saw that night, and it hit me in the face. And I literally started to have panic attacks and anxiety. I turned white as a ghost. My coworker looked at me and was really confused and just said, "Do you have a kid there? Do you know anyone there? Do you live in the neighborhood?" You know, and I was forced to, as soon as I could spit out the words, I was forced to kind of tell her what was going on. And for a week, I spiraled again. all of those old feelings came flooding back. So the fogginess, the suicidal ideation, the depression, everything. And my husband actually met me at the door one day and he looked at me and said, "You have two choices. You can either get help or I'm putting you in a hospital."
Wow.
And it was that serious. And so I said, I'll get help. And I went to the doctor and got put on antidepressants because that's what they do.
Mm-hmm.
And the next thing out of my doctor's mouth was, "Okay, and now we need to send you to a therapist."
And you're
I
like,
thought,
okay.
"Oh, righty, here we go again." The first one couldn't fix me. So I don't know what to say about this new experience. So I did go see a therapist, and she was the first one to look me in my face after hearing her a little snippet of my life and what I was going through. And she said, "Susan, everything that you have been experiencing since you were 17 years old is 100% natural. You have PTSD." And I kind of sat back and I said, "Well, I don't get that because I didn't go to war.
Hmm.
I'm not in the military." And that was the mindset. And
Mm-hmm.
it still is for, a lot of people. And she said, "No, anyone who goes through some sort of, trauma in their life, it doesn't matter what it is, can experience PTSD." And that was a big eye opener for me. I said, like, the sky opened up and rainbows shot out because I finally had answers.
Mm-hmm.
And now I could put a plan of action together with
Yes.
the therapist to guide me through this healing journey. And so I was super grateful to that therapist. But it also brought up feelings of being angry with the first one because I felt like he almost set me up in life.
Yeah.
But that started the journey of healing and learning how to cope and how to have the tools that I need when I'm experiencing various things, such as the depression and the anxiety and even suicidal ideation. So
Do those feelings still come up now?
I've had them off and on, but the difference is that I had the tools to work myself out of them. And that made me feel like I had a little more power over the PTSD, over
Right.
the symptoms. So it's amazing. It's so amazing that the one thing that I did immediately with the therapist is journal. And I'm always telling people how absolutely powerful journaling is for two reasons. One, you're getting all of that stuff that's swirling around in your head out. And you can utilize journaling in ways with your therapist of reprogramming your thought process and changing the inner speak in your mind.
Mm-hmm.
So it was the first really powerful thing that I did was to journal.
So when you say journal, I just want to, what does journaling mean? Is it different for everyone?
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's just
Some
whatever
people,
you.
yep, whatever you're comfortable with. Some people journal through art,
Okay.
drawing,
Yeah.
painting,
Right.
whatever. Some people journal by writing. I personally started writing in journals. And some people pick up like their phone and they record whatever it is in their thoughts. and that's their version of journaling. So everybody has a different way of doing it, but what you're doing is the same. You're getting out all the things that are swirling around in your head
Right.
out, so that they're not creating even more negative self-talk or just, really doing the damage more to yourself, spiraling out of control.
Taking up that energy.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, I hope you were able to let go of the anger
Oh,
towards the first therapist.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Because I mean, that's not doing anybody any good, right?
No.
And there's nothing you can do about it now. That's the point of this
No.
podcast. It's without regret. We can't go back and change the past.
No, I just keep moving forward,
Right.
and that's what's important. Yeah.
But because of your therapy now, you have the tools to move forward in a much more productive way, it sounds like.
Absolutely.
So is the journaling how you got the idea to write the book?
A little bit. The book actually came through because, and some people ask me, like, why didn't I write the book years ago? But honestly, I was not ready. You have to be mentally ready and mentally strong enough to dive back into that pain. And so that didn't happen till I was 50 years old. It took me 4.5 years to write it and publish it. And the reason is because it was not easy. And I really had to, what I call, bulldoze my fear to get through the pain part, the trauma. And I found purpose on the other side of that. I realized that as I was writing, I realized that this wasn't just cathartic for me, but my purpose was to help other people who are dealing with their own journey. And I call it kind of my cliff notes. And just, to reiterate that when you are fearful of reliving your pain and your trauma, the purpose is what can drive you the most. So whatever that is for you, if that's, a parent, a child, whatever, whatever it is, a dream, something that you've wanted to do for your life. But I will tell you that it has absolutely set me free from my pain. And I just did something on Sunday. I was back in LA with my husband. And before we left to come back to Colorado, I decided that I wanted to go to the school. There is a street sign that's on one of the main streets that has my dad's name on it. And he wasn't killed on that street. He was killed on a different street behind the school. This sign is in the front of the school. I have never, ever, ever been able to go anywhere near that street where my dad was killed. Anytime I came anywhere close, I'd have a full-fledged panic attack, anxiety, crying, just hysterical. I've not been able to do it. After this book, I was wondering where I was at in my healing. And so after we took pictures of the sign, we got back in the car and I was driving. I drove and my poor husband had no idea what I was doing. I think he was having the panic attack because he was not sure what was going to happen. But I drove to that street and I turned around and I parked and I started to describe everything that happened that night to my husband, like where my dad's truck was, where I came out of in the parking lot, to see the scene where the ambulance was, and I had no anxiety. I had
That's
nothing.
incredible.
I had an absolute peace come over me that I can't even describe to you. And the only tears that happened were tears of, oh my gosh, almost 38 years later, here I am able to do this. And I never thought it would be possible. Never. But it was always a goal.
Yeah.
It was always a goal to be able to go back there and not feel completely out of control.
And what an honor to be able to see the street sign with your dad's name on it too.
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
it seems very unfortunate that that's not something you were able to, do, but I'm glad you were able to.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was important for me. And it was a litmus test a little bit to see how far after writing that book I had come.
How long did it take you to write the book?
4.5 years.
Wow. Was that just because you had to stop because of the memories and the pain, or just
Oh yeah,
life?
there were days. Well, yeah, I mean, I'm a realtor, so
Mm-hmm.
it takes a little bit of my time, but I would schedule time every day and know that there might be days where I have to give myself grace and like a mental health day to be able to come out of that mindset, you
Mm-hmm.
know. So there were definitely those days where I would write and then I was done. I was not able to do anything else. And I had to give myself the grace to know that, I just need this one day to kind of heal my wounds, so to speak to my therapist if I needed to, or I have a coach as well.
Mm-hmm.
So speaking to either one of them and check in.
Are you
But
still seeing the same therapist you saw not originally, but the second therapist, or is it someone else?
no, I keep in touch with another one. So every once in a while, I'll text her, or call her, and just kind of check in.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not on an official basis. My coach has been amazing. She's a life coach, and she too has helped me and guided me. And so it's just I've been very blessed to have specific people in my life. I mean, even the people who helped me through the book. My
Mm-hmm.
editor was phenomenal. She not only edited my book, but she also guided me and coached me through it. And same with my designer. I had no idea what I was doing. None. All I knew is that I wanted it to be not, well, I would say yes. I wanted it to be perfect because I wanted it to be short, sweet, to the point, uh, so that it was easy to grasp my message,
Mm.
you know, in reading
Ooh,
it.
lost an AirPod.
Oh, hate when that happens.
Yeah, at least it didn't go in the water this time. No, that was not
Oh,
good.
oh,
In the lake, Stanley Lake. I'm in Colorado too.
oh, are you?
Yeah, I'm in
Oh,
Broomfield.
oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, Stanley Lake,
That sounds familiar.
I know where that is.
Yeah, I'd had it for all of 6 days, had my AirPods, and then one of them fell in the lake.
Oh, that's
I
terrible.
won't wear them on the lake again. Anyways. I
I digress.
don't, yeah, exactly. Sorry.
It's okay.
Um, so when was the book published?
It was published in February of this year.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So you started it pre-COVID then, just
I
pre-COVID. Yeah.
I did. Yep. Yeah, I did. And
I
you
would say
know,
you had time to kind of work on it during COVID, but I think realtors were very, very busy
I
during
was
COVID.
actually, yes, I was busy. I was selling things virtually. So I had to get very good with Zoom
Right.
and technology. But
We all
yeah,
did.
the book was, I will say that I not that I kept it quiet. People knew that I wanted to write a book, and uh, I had been talking about it for years. And so, when I finally said, okay, that's it, 50, I'm going to actually do this thing, I kept it a little bit quiet. Only some of my closer friends knew that I was actually writing it. And my husband didn't even want to read it until it was published. I kept trying to give him snippets, and he'd be like, nope, nope, I want to read it when it's totally published. And
Was that to motivate you? Was
I
that his
don't,
reasoning?
maybe, or he just he didn't want to spoil it. He wanted
Yeah.
to hear the
Yeah.
whole story. And he's in my book. We have a long history, he and I, and so he is in my book as well. And we went through a lot of trauma together, and we were both kids. He was 19, I was 17.
So
We'd only
he
been
was your
dating.
boyfriend at the time it
Yeah.
happened. Oh,
Hmm. We
wow.
started dating in July, and my dad was killed in October.
Oh my
So
goodness.
3 months of dating. And I will say that most 19-year-old boys would have probably skipped out, but
Yeah.
by too much, just
Yeah.
too much for a young man. And he stuck it out with me. Um, so we've been through a lot. He is my absolute hero.
He must be, yeah.
He has always been the one that has been by my side no matter what, even when he wasn't.
I imagine after 30 something years of marriage that, yeah, or being together, married, unmarried, whatever. But yeah, I know I was married for 20 years and you go through a lot. Mine didn't last,
Hmm.
mine didn't make it through that 20 years, but I know things you
Well,
grow up,
ours
together or you
almost,
grow up apart.
yeah, ours almost didn't. I mean, we divorced and then
Oh,
we reconciled.
oh,
It's in the book.
I'll have to read the book.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's a whole nother story. But it was still like I kept it in my book just because, you know, it affected me. And at that point, I had the tools to get through that trauma a little bit better than anything else. And I just wanted to show people that life throws you crappy things, it just really does. And you can choose to be a victim, or you could choose to be a survivor. And I chose to be a survivor. I don't like to be called a victim
Yeah.
at all, ever. Even the advocate in Northern California will call and give me updates sometimes on some of the men that were involved. And she says, she's a victim advocate and she likes to talk to victims. And I had to stop her and say, I really would like to be addressed as a survivor and not a victim. And of course,
What
she was like, what?
was it always that way, or is that something that came out of your second round of therapy and beyond?
No, I think I've always had that mindset.
Mm-hmm. So you've always been a survivor
Yep,
from day one. I
I
just,
have. I've had victim mentality,
mm-hmm.
but on the other end of that, I've always felt like a survivor. Like I didn't want to feel sorry for myself. Like I didn't make other people feel sorry for me. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean?
Right. Yeah.
Behind the scenes, I would say things like, I can't believe this is my life, and this sucks and whatever. But now I say, this was given to me, this was the cards I was dealt. And I am working to it gave me my purpose. So my purpose was in my dad's death. And my dad's purpose was in my dad's death, because a lot of things came out of his death as well. So I feel like this was given to me. These were the cards I was dealt. And I chose to create a more positive outlook through it. And in the process, to help other people see the same thing, give them some hope.
Right. That's the point of this whole.
It is.
That's why you're
whole
here.
Point.
Yeah. Exactly. Sometimes, and it did suck. It does suck. You were like, I can't believe this is my life. This sucks. And it does suck.
It does. Yeah.
But you can either make it suck worse or you can make it suck less.
Yes. I think I was talking this morning about forgiveness, and there's a lot of misinformation about forgiveness. A lot of people I have talked to in the past have said, how can you forgive? And I tell them the same thing. I'm forgiving for myself, not for that person.
Yes.
I'm not forgetting what they did to my family. What I'm doing is I'm taking my power back and not giving them my power, because when you are a victim and you walk around with hatred and, just all that negative energy, it robs your soul of a life. And so for me, I looked at it as, I'm forgiving these people because I want them to know they didn't win with me. They didn't win.
They're not taking up your headspace.
No.
Anymore.
Nope.
Negatively, anyway.
Nope.
Yeah. Yep. This is a common theme. I think the last 3 now podcasts that I've recorded, they've said the same exact thing. The forgiveness is not for them. It's for you.
Right. Absolutely. And I think that there's some guilt and shame in forgiving. Like, if they forgive somebody for doing something terrible, then shame on them, kind of thing, because they're forgetting. No, it's the opposite. It's the opposite. No, they're remembering. Absolutely. That it happened, whatever it was, right? It happened. You can't take it back. It happened. But what you can do is take your power back from that person that hurt you or hurt your family member or whatever. So I've worked very hard to be able to do that. And in that, I feel that I have definitely taken my power back.
And as you said, you worked very hard to do that.
Did.
That's not something that's easy to do either. And I think people think that another misconception, they're just like, oh, I forgive. Yeah, no, it doesn't work that way.
No, you got to do the internal work on yourself in order to do that. If you just say, I forgive, you're just saying the words. You got to feel it.
Right.
And, a lot of it is all around fear and being fearful of reliving the pain, the fear of being in that space again and not knowing if you're going to be able to come out of it. And, that's where the purpose comes into play, because
Yes.
if you have a purpose on the other side of it, it
Mm-hmm.
drives you to be able to keep going,
Mm-hmm.
keep moving forward no matter what.
And that brings me to my other question is where does that strength come from for you? The
I
inner
am,
strength. Go ahead.
yeah, I am my father's daughter. I firmly believe that. I am my father's daughter. This was a gift that he gave me. And I know my brother has it in there.
Mm-hmm.
He's just got to work to pull it out, but it's in there. He has it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's been innate for me. I've always had that drive or that fight or that fire. The difference is that when I was younger, I had no idea how to fight and how to take the fire and put it to good use, and not, it just, I didn't have the tools then.
Mm-hmm.
So now I do. And I encourage other people around me, friends, and my own children,
Mm-hmm.
teaching them. This is my legacy for them.
Mm-hmm.
I want them to know that no matter what life throws at you, if you keep moving forward and you do the work and you don't allow it to engulf you and, define you in a negative way, you can still have the amazing life that you dream of. But if you don't, and you curl up in the corner and let it take over you, then you're doing yourself a disservice. So,
Do they take that well from you, being your
yes.
children? Okay, good.
Yes. And, I am a firm believer of, it's not just the words, it's the actions. So
Mm-hmm.
I can say what I can say, but when I show them, such as what happened on Sunday, when I showed
Mm-hmm.
them that I could face something that horrific and be okay, I think that's more of a life lesson than anything I could
Yeah,
say to them.
absolutely. Yeah. Show it, lead by example, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. That's amazing. What was the purpose of the trip back to LA? Was it uh, a speaking event or?
Yeah, I did. I spoke to some retired LAPD gentlemen and men and women, and they were wonderful. And I heard stories about my dad, and
Oh.
it was really cool to see that side of him and see the joy that he brought
Mm-hmm.
to his law enforcement community. It also showed me the pain that they still live with
Mm-hmm.
and the anger that they still live with around my dad's death. He was in the annals of uh, LAPD, was the first officer to be assassinated. And so it's something that is embedded in them. They remember that and how traumatic it was for them. And so it was an honor for me to be able to speak to them, show them the book. They bought it, which was great, because the other reason I wrote the book was for people like that.
Yeah.
To show them hope, show them that I'm okay, and that if I can get through it, if I can find forgiveness, if I can move through the fear and the anger and all the things that were attached, they can too.
Mm-hmm.
So
Absolutely.
that was amazing. And I was able to do that last Wednesday. And the gentleman that wrote my foreword is the one that invited me to speak at this breakfast. So it was it was an honor. These
Mm-hmm.
guys are getting up there in age. And so it was nice to be able to talk with them and share my story. And then I had a book signing as well.
Oh, cool.
So
Awesome.
Yeah.
You're like Carrie Bradshaw.
I wish.
So the book is really like your life story, kind of.
It
Then is
is.
that premise? Yeah. Okay.
Very vulnerable.
I don't want to give too much away.
Yeah.
I want people to read it.
Well, it was funny because you'll get this because you're in Colorado. But people would ask me what it was like to be this vulnerable. Like, what was it like to push go and have my entire life out there for everyone to judge and know? And I said, well, if you were at rush hour, if you were buck naked on I-25 at rush hour, standing there, that's pretty much what it feels like. You're just all out there, like no taking it back. People are seeing you for you. And so that's how I describe it. And there was actually 2 weeks ago, there was a man that was naked on I-25 at rush.
Was there really?
Yeah.
I saw like something about the guy in the cowboy hat on the side of the road. It was shirtless. But I didn't know there was a naked man.
This guy was totally naked.
Oh goodness. I'm glad that wasn't when I had
And
to
I
drive.
thought,
I drive I-25 2 to 3 days a week. So
oh great. My visual has come to fruition.
Yes.
Yeah. So
only it's probably not working out so well for that guy.
No.
I think he needs to do some work and
the
write
police,
a book later.
I felt really bad for him, but at the same, I was like really having a struggle with this because I was kind of laughing because
right. It is kind of funny.
Me, but at the same time, I felt empathy for this gentleman who clearly had something going on.
Yeah.
And the police were handling it, but it was an experience. And so you gotta kind of laugh at yourself too,
Yeah. I'm a big believer in humor too. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
To get you through, but not as a coping mechanism necessarily, but just as if you can't laugh at it, who can, right?
Right. Exactly. And so, I mean, and like I said, the book it's not an easy read, but it's an important read. The message is what's important.
Right. So your life story, but also in providing inspiration for other people.
Yeah, it's actually split into 2 parts. So the first part is about the trauma.
Okay.
And all the things that went with that. The second part of my book is how I got through it.
Perfect. That's awesome. I'm definitely going to read it.
I appreciate that.
Where could people find this book?
So it's called The Other Side of the Gun, my journey from trauma to resiliency. And it's on Amazon right now. It's available by Kindle.
Okay.
And it's also a paperback version. I am working on the audio book.
Okay.
I will be doing that myself because everybody keeps bugging me to do it.
I love audiobooks.
Yeah. So I just have to get into my studio and do it. But I definitely am working towards getting that done.
Okay.
But right now, a lot of people are reading it on Kindle. And if you're, what is that? The Kindle
Unlimited.
You can read it for free. So
I canceled my Kindle Unlimited subscription, so I'll have to buy it, but that's okay.
Well, I appreciate that. But it's been great. It's been well received.
Awesome.
Which makes me feel really good.
Good. And then, well, maybe not the last question, but how was your mom? How did she ever face her demons and come to terms with things? No, I'm sorry. Is she still with us?
Yes.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah, that was the unfortunate part of the situation, is that her mindset is a lot different than mine. And in my book, I told my truth, and in that was her truth as well.
Mhm.
And she was not happy about me telling my truth.
Mm.
And so, I I have no, I feel at peace. She and I do not have a relationship, and but I feel I'm at peace about it.
Mhm.
Sometimes the you have to be at a point in your life where you can walk away if you feel like the relationship is not healthy.
Mhm.
And that's kind of where I'm at.
Yeah.
And I struggled. I mean, that was one of the fears about writing the book,
Yeah, for sure.
because I knew that this could go either way. And it, but I wasn't surprised at the direction it took.
Did you have a relationship with her prior to the book?
Our relationship has always been strained.
Okay.
I have worked hard on my end to be empathetic and to try to see her side of things.
Mhm.
Um, but what I realized was that I was encouraging or enabling.
Mhm.
And so, I mean, we have had a very complicated relationship before my dad was killed.
Oh,
So
okay.
it was just, that was the catalyst to a lot of things. And even writing the book, a lot of repressed memories came up,
Mm.
and they were hurtful. And I just realized that, when you are in a relationship that is unhealthy like that, with someone who is, and I'll say it, she's a narcissist. It's it really negates some of your healing,
Mhm.
because there's a lot of self-doubt, and you're not working with someone who is supportive, because they're not where you are, and they don't understand how you can be.
Mhm.
You know what I mean?
Mm.
It's
Yeah.
just, yeah. And so it's unfortunate that it fractured the way it did. I'm a firm believer that it happened for a reason. And like I said, I feel at peace with who I am
Mhm.
and how I got here, and what I'm going to do with this book and this message. My purpose is very important,
Mhm.
and I feel, what I've been put on this earth to do. So sometimes when you're in that mode and in that way, people who are not in that same mindset, um, they don't want to see you move forward.
Mhm. Yeah.
So,
That's unfortunate.
mhm,
I know she's got to be up there in age.
she is.
But maybe one day she'll come around.
Maybe,
We can
maybe.
hope. We can
Yeah,
always hope.
we can always hope. But yeah, I keep moving forward, and I move forward for my kids and for myself and for the people who come to me and say, thank you for writing this book because it helped me think about this and it helped me think about that, or I have so much more healing to do and I didn't realize how much I needed to do it. And, that is why I wrote the book. And I'm so grateful when people are, I always try to give people a place, a safe haven, a safe place to be vulnerable and tell their story.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and that's important to me, that I am that kind of person, that I am able to allow that safe space for people to feel comfortable enough to confide in me and know that I am not judging, I am listening, and just trying to be as encouraging and supportive as I can.
And you're coaching now as well?
I am.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I just started coaching. This is what the universe does to you.
Yeah, I feel you. I feel you. I'm on that path myself. So not there yet, but definitely on that path.
Yeah.
So congratulations. That's
Thank
awesome.
you.
And I know your website is
Yes.
susansnowspeaks.com.
Yes,
Yeah.
it is.
So what type of speaking engagements are you interested in doing?
Well, I'm actually doing a virtual event on August 7th, and it is a summit for women.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, I am going to be speaking my truth, telling my story and sharing my message of hope and, bulldozing your fear.
Mm-hmm.
So that was exciting for me. That was the first time. I have spoken in the past. I was a keynote speaker in 2019 for an organization called Warren Village. I don't know if you've ever heard of it,
Mm-mm.
but it is a program for women coming out of homelessness.
Okay.
And they're in this program for about 18 months. And, some of them are single moms. And so it's they take a bunch of different classes and financial literacy and childcare, classes, and they can go to high school and get their GED, they can go to college, whatever they want to do to become successful and be able to manage on their own again. They had their graduation night, and I was the keynote speaker for that. And so I spoke to about 130 women. My biggest goal in life is to speak to 10,000 on a stage. And, I tell my friends that and they go, "Ooh, no."
Yeah.
But my message is important. And if I can get to one person in that 10,000, I've done my job. So that's my goal. I know I've been on like 9 podcasts and they're all, all over the world. So technically I've talked to people.
Just not on one stage all
Not
at once.
on one stage. Yeah. So that's what I would love to do, is just really be a paid speaker and get out there and tell my message and inspire people and show and give them hope.
Yeah. I think you will do that. I have no doubt.
Thank you.
You're
Appreciate
welcome.
that.
Yeah, no problem. I'm going to let you go now. I
Okay.
really appreciate you. If there's any last words of wisdom you want to put out there for anybody before we go.
I think if you are in a situation right now where you are in your journey, the best thing that you can do is 2 things. One, obviously seek professional help, someone that will be able to guide you. On the flip side of that, though, make sure that that person is a good fit. I think too many people get stuck in a situation with therapists where it's not a good fit and it hinders your healing. So if you're going to find a professional to help you, make sure it's a good fit. If you don't feel comfortable with that person, find another one. And it's okay. Like, I think people need to know it's okay. You have that right. And if you really want to heal in the way that you want to, that's important. The other thing is bulldoze that fear, man, because I'm telling you that fear will hold you back for everything in your life. And if you can move through your pain, find purpose on the other side, your life is sky's the limit. You can do whatever you want to do, whatever your dreams are. You can keep moving forward and don't let anyone else hold you back from it.
Thank you so much. I'm glad you said that about the therapist, because I was thinking that earlier when we were talking, and I wanted to make sure we touched on that. So I really appreciate you saying that for sure.
Absolutely.
But what great message. Bulldoze your fears.
Yeah.
Still working on that myself. I'll get there.
Yep. It is. It's not easy.
Yeah. It's not. And you're right. It is like standing naked on the highway. Like, here I am, take it or leave it. Yeah. I don't know if you've listened to any episodes of my podcast, but some of the earlier ones are me kind of telling my life story. And that's exactly how it felt, is like, I'm like, it's one thing for people to listen to it that you don't know.
Right.
And it's a totally different thing when it's people
right.
And you're being that vulnerable with people that you see every day or talk to on a regular basis. That's tough.
Exactly. But, it's very interesting when that happens, though. As I'm able to tell my story, I notice that other people that I'm talking to start to tell me theirs.
Mm-hmm.
It's a mutual understanding that if I'm willing to be vulnerable with you, you can be vulnerable with me.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very true.
Yeah. So.
Well, thank you for being vulnerable. Thank you for not actually standing naked on I-25.
Will never happen. Never,
I'm sure
ever,
it's beautiful,
ever.
But I don't want to see it out there on my way to work.
It will never happen. Never, ever, ever.
Okay. Well, thank you. Have a great evening.
Thank you. You too. It was great meeting you.
Great meeting you too. Maybe we'll meet in person one time.
That would be great.
I think you did Amanda Blackwood's podcast,
I did.
Right?
I told her
on mine.
Okay. I told her we need to do coffee.
Yeah, we should all do coffee. I met her at podcast meetup a few months ago. So, she's kind of the catalyst actually for a lot of for Podmatch getting on here. Actually, It was because of her. So yeah, we should totally do coffee sometime. That'd be awesome.
That would be amazing. Amazing.
Yes. Love it. We'll make this happen.
All right.
Have a good evening.
You too.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.
If you or someone you care about is grappling with thoughts of suicide, please don't hesitate to connect with the Suicide Crisis Helpline at 811 or visit 811lifeline.org. I recently reached out, not for myself, but for someone dear to me, and I can vouch for the invaluable support they offer. Your call can truly make a difference. I just want to say thank you so much for tuning in to Without Regret, the podcast. I really appreciate it. And I'd like to ask you to please like and subscribe. Leave me a review wherever you get your podcast. That would be really awesome, because that's how my podcast is going to get noticed. So that would be a huge help, or share it on your social media would be awesome as well. Thank you so much. This podcast is a Without Regret production, which is produced by me. Artwork is by me. Everything's by me except for that theme song. That's by a guy named Michael Bruguglio. You can follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/Without Regret Podcast, and on Instagram at without_regret_podcast. Thanks again.